Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hormel Stadium in Medford, Massachusetts for tonight's MLU matchup between the DC Current and the home Boston Whitecaps. I'm Jeff Poster, joined alongside once again by Dusty Rhodes here in Week 4 of the MLU. DC coming in perfect at 2-0, Boston at 1-2. They are first and third in the conference respectively. It's a beautiful night here at Hormel Stadium. We're having a little bit of a late start, so we apologize for the delay, but it is a 66-degree night here. A little bit of wind. Humidity it's not quite summer yet, but 50% here. And we're going to step away for a minute, and we'll come back with Whitecaps and the Current. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium as we get set to go here. Once again, the DC Current on the road here to face the Boston Whitecaps, two of the premier teams in the Eastern Conference tonight. Let's take a look quickly at some players to watch. And, Dusty, I'll introduce you, and you could talk a little bit. Let's see, Lloyd Blake here had a big game a couple weeks ago against Philadelphia.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen from Lloyd over the course of this season so far is that in Week 1, he didn't start off quite as well. He was a little bit quiet, a little bit tentative to go downfield. As you can see, he's one of the taller handlers who creates matchup problems for his opponents. So one of the things that he can do is draw in a smaller defender to cover him as a handler and then push downfield and switch the matchups and put the defense on their heels. Let's
talk a little bit on the other side now. Jeff Graham, he's a guy we've talked time and time again, but once again, he's that player to watch for Boston.
One of the most incredible things about Jeff is his consistency. Every single game that he comes out, he plays at the top level that he can play at. There are a lot of players who can reach that level sometimes, but the fact that Jeff can reach that over and over and over again is one of the things that has led to him led him to tie for the league lead at 20 points with Mark Burton in the West Coast.
Well, we actually have Jeff right now downfield side, and let's hear from the man himself, Jeff Graham, right here before the game.
What's up, guys?
Hi, Jeff. How you doing? Dusty Rhodes here.
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty well. The wind's picking up a little bit. Should have a tight contest.
Yep.
One of the first things I wanted to ask you about is so far you're off to a pretty good start yourself this season. How can we help that translate into success for your team?
You know what? I think we have a good young roster this season, and practices have been great. The trip down south for the first weekend against Philly and D.C., while we came out 0-2, we lost those games by a total of 3 points, and this young group has really been playing well at practice. So I really think we're getting better and better as the season's going on.
Excellent. So you spoke about how it started off a little hard for you guys with those tight losses. What sort of adjustments do you think that you can make to turn the tide against DC today?
Really, I mean, like you said, it's a bit windy today, so there will be turnovers. It's really about confidence of this team. We have to gel. We have some veterans, and we have a lot of young guys. I'm talking like just out of college kind of guys and just out of high school kind of guy. So this element of gelling and having the team come together is really important, and I really think we're a different team than we were 3 weeks ago.
Excellent. We hope to see you guys come out and give the DC Current a good battle today, and we expect to see excellence from you as always.
Thank you very much. I wish you the best in the booth, too. I wish you excellence there.
Thanks. We always need the luck.
Good.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's take a look. It's not just one player's game. This is a team game, right, Dusty? Let's see the keys to the game. First up for the DC Current, what do they have to do to win this game?
Well, the first thing that DC has to do is they have to survive this weekend on the whole. So that means they have to play against Boston today, and then tomorrow they're going to travel down to New York and have their first matchup against the Rumble. While it's tough for them to start up here in Boston, it's probably better to see your tougher team earlier in the weekend as opposed to later. Their mental edge, it's all about staying in the games against Boston when it's tight. Sometimes these games can be decided by a late game drop for either side, just an execution error, and it's up to their team to focus in and stay with it.
Let's look at the other side for Boston, trying to get back at DC for their Week 1 loss to the Current. What do they have to do?
The first thing that's listed here is the most important bit for them, home cooking. They're here every week in the MLU. When they're here, they are almost undefeated. They're 15-1 against the entire Eastern Conference. The only team to beat them here was DC last year, as we always mention, but that's notable. They have to protect this so that they can get through the rest of the games.
So now we see what Boston has to do. We see what DC has to do. We'll step away, one more break, and then we'll come back and look at the starting lineups. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. The DC Current getting set to take the field, but let's meet the starting lineups first. The O-line here for the Boston Whitecaps be the guy we just saw, number 21, Jeff Graham, number 42, Teddy Brouwer-Jarris, number 2, Matt Little. There's our featured player, the grizzled, number 4, Miles Montgomery Butler, the 00 man, Jake Taylor, number 3, Brian Zid, and rounding it out will be number 17, Ben Katz. On the defensive side, it'll be the captain, number 12, Alex Simmons, number 49, Eric Wilburn, number 19, Jeff Smith, number 25, Matt Rowan McDonald, number 21, Eric Stevens, and number 18, Tom Edmonds. And there's Tyler Chan, our featured man for the Whitecaps. Quickly take a look at the offensive line here. No surprises for DC. Kolek, Pryl, Schaffner, that's 99, 8, and 90 respectively. That's Nate Castine, our favorite and featured player right there. Seth Wiggins, number 28, number 84, Chuck Cantone, and Lloyd Blake, who was the player of the week a couple weeks ago. Defensively, Brent Bellinger, Delrico Johnson, Dom Gibson, Jonathan Neely, Eric Salmi, Brian Marshall, and Ben Fleming, who had the game-sealing D in Week 1 pretty much that stopped this one. And we are underway as DC pulls to Boston. DC in the black uniforms with the silver trim. Boston in the white with the blue numbers and trim, and we are set to go as Miles Montgomery reels this one in and finds Jeff Graham on the far side, fakes a big huck.
They had a really open deep receiver there. They just chose not to take the look early. As Jeff Graham was talking about earlier, it is a bit windy out here, and they're throwing into it.
That's Sam Kitrosh Snell, one of the 7 Tufts alumni on this team. Fends over to Jake Taylor. Here's Teddy Brouwer-Jarris. Sends that flick on the near side. Josh Marquette getting his first full game of action here with the Whitecaps this season. Played briefly against New York, but here to start tonight. Marquette, been a big gun here for the Whitecaps over the years. Finds Montgomery Butler, swings it wide to Tyler Chan, laying out and making the grab. Oh, what a catch.
While it ended with a great catch, it's that same thing that we talk about every week. Once you get down near the end zone, it just has to be a smooth movement of the disc from side to side, and then that gives Chan enough space to sprint across the field and catch that.
You know, I was talking to Coach Tom Matthews, who is the head coach tonight, as we see this again. He was hoping DC would not be prepared for Tyler Chan.
Wow.
That kind of play like that, how do you prepare for that?
Well, and he was actually the original deep cutter who was open on that very first play that Jeff Graham chose not to put the deep look up to. He must have been open by about 10 yards. We can expect to see a lot of him today. Tyler
Chan. Happened to mention, too, it's pink out night here at Hormel Stadium in honor of breast cancer awareness. See Chan, he normally wears a handkerchief around his neck, but he's wearing the headband because it's pink there. So we'll see what DC's O-line, how they can respond. Again, we apologize for that late start. DC had a tough time making the trip up to Boston. We'll see if their legs are ready to go.
It can always be tough traveling on 95 either direction on a weekend. That's the whole East Coast megalopolis we're getting into there.
That's Jack Hatchett, the Axeman for Boston, the Defensive Player of the Year a season ago, pulling down deep, and Lloyd Blake receiving it. And he's pushed back pretty far, and will float one out to Kolek.
It was a fantastic pull and a good cover, too. However, they left Kolek entirely alone here by himself. on this close side.
Pryal pushes it up to Kolek. On the second bid, he lays out and grabs it.
He just wanted the extra yards there.
Better position. Finds his man Blake on this near side. They're going to try and swing it and center it. Back to Kolek. Calvin Ong with his first catch. Kolek gets it back. He is the go-to guy for the spinners and finds his other go-to guy, Markham Schaffner. We're tied at 1.
At some point there, it looked like the defender lost track of Schaffner or possibly poached off of him a little bit, but he was standing there open for a while before the thrower actually recognized and was able to deliver the disc. Looking excited there, of course. Good to see Tom Doy back as well. He provides a little more offensive flavor downfield now that they're missing Jeff Wodach for today's game.
Take a look again. There's the initial, I don't want to call it a bobble, but he tipped it ahead to himself and then recovered nicely, and Schaffner all alone at the end zone there.
The defender just may have been paying attention to something else. He may have turned his head for a moment. All those guys on DC's offense are ready to take advantage of you as soon as you lose sight of them.
And you mentioned, too, Jeff Wodach, a big O-line player here for the Current, is absent tonight. He will be at the game tomorrow against New York as the Current make their first ever, believe it or not, doubleheader weekend play since the league started 2 years ago.
Well, it was close to that. There was a rain out one weekend that they still had to travel for the second game, so that doesn't quite count.
Montgomery Butler reels in that pull, gets it ahead to Marquette. The man they call Cricket. Fakes a big flick out to his right, instead swings it back to Montgomery Butler. Piers McNaughton out on the field and catching that one. Nice one-handed grab by him. That's Zid. Floats one up to Matt Little, and Little tracks it down.
We've seen both teams float a couple passes. They've both been completed so far, although if they continue to do that, some of these discs will hop up and we'll see some turnovers.
Jeff Graham trying to get around Dom Gibson. Does it and gets it to Butler. Butler finds a wide open Cricket who thought about threading the needle there between a couple of DC defenders. That's Chan.
DC had a couple switches there. They're now back with their man.
Back to Graham.
Open player.
Looking for Cricket, making a nice cut and in for the score. Josh Marquette from Jeff Graham. And listening right there, as you see.
Is he listening for the fans? Is he listening for the crickets? I can't tell which.
Well, I think he's hoping there are no crickets when he scores, right? Other than him.
Right. Well, if you get a bunch of them, it's a lot of noise.
There you see it again. Well, that's a nice cut.
And it's his quickness there to lose the DC defender. If you take a couple little jukes near the end zone, it gets him off balance, gets his head turned the wrong way. Then all you have to do is hit that hard up line cut for the easy score.
He said Josh Marquette missed that first weekend against DC. They had a couple of players, Marquette and Hatchett, both the O-line and D-line big guns missing for Boston in that double overtime loss. But
that game was so close.
it was a fun one, a way to kick off the season.
That was the first time I've ever been in the booth, too. It was great. I didn't know how to respond to Ben Fleming making that block. I didn't know how to respond to Delrico Johnson making that catch between his knees. I was searching for words the entire time.
Well, hopefully we'll get just as exciting a game here tonight as Hatchett once again pulls this one. And Ong is going to reel it in deep. So a little bit of a breeze here tonight.
Yeah,
see if it affects.
The corner that Ong was working out of and throwing towards us in the booth, that's probably the hardest throw on the field right now. So if they can continue to put pulls back into that corner, DC will be having a tough time.
DC on that far sideline, that's Schaffner. And I think we're going to get some contact here.
Yeah, foul on the mark there. That's a good breather for DC. They were looking a little spaced out there on offense.
Our refereeing crew, Owen Butler operating the clock. There's Scott Burns, Jonathan Levy, Max Lloyds, Jason Dumont, and a guy you know pretty well, Jamie Rhodes, out there as our chief. Big huck here from DC, but it's going to hang in the wind and float backwards, and it's going to be anyone's disc. It's tipped up, and who else but Kolek comes down with it.
And he got fouled there as he was trying to release that next disc. But coming down in a crowd, he's tough to bump out of the way. He gets up very high, and he just makes a clean play out of a mess.
Adrian Banerjee committing the foul. And there's Peter Pryal, the one-time Whitecap. And Banerjee answers right back, getting in front of Kolek and D'ing that disc up.
Pryal was thrown into a small space that was getting progressively smaller there. The defender was on the inside track, and Kolek had essentially decided that that pass was not coming up.
So Boston will get their first chance at a break. Jack Hatchett sends a scoober out. A lot of contact right there as Misha Sidorsky reels in the catch. And the foul will be
on Neely there.
That's what I was looking for. Number 11, Neely. Gets it up to Eric Stevens. Banerjee centering it against Kolek. Wide open man. That's Herskew. Was a late arrival tonight, but I'm sure he was glad for the late start. Here's McDonald.
Boston's a little stagnant right now.
And Banerjee looking for the strip. Kolek, both Banerjee and Kolek trying to appeal to our referee, and Banerjee's going to win that battle. Couple little shimmies, and a nice grab there by Hatchett. And then he immediately tries to put it up to a cutting deep Jack Hatchett, or Herskew rather, and Pryl with a great length reaches up and D's the disc, and now he's going to look for the catch at the other end. He's all alone, reels it in. He's got Doy making the cut. Instead, he floats it over to Schaffner.
2 goals for Schaffner. We usually see him on the other end of it, but you get down and you make it easy for your players when they receive it on the goal line. DC's offense there basically set up Peter Pryl in a complete isolation out of that stoppage. He was down here on the near sideline at the same side that the thrower was on with 1 defender, and as soon as he took a step, the disc went up to the far side of the field. That creates a lot of space.
Take a look at this one again. Here's the big collide that Kolek was able to reel in over Banerjee, and then Adrian gets it right back.
And as you see, Kolek started cutting back the other way there.
The nice catch by Hatchett, and then the better defensive play, though, by Pryl. And now Pryl gets the assist, but really the big throw came on that one before.
It was all about the space on the far side of the field that made that possible. The throw went out flat, it sat for a while, and Peter was able to run onto it with ease.
So tied back up here at 2 as we get a look at the 4 of the members of the Boston O-line out there. Brower, Jarris, Marquette, Taylor, and Sam Kitross Schnell. And the pull from DC. 5:09 left to go here in the first.
Boston come out in a vertical here.
Marquette fakes the huck or the flick. Instead he'll dump it off to Taylor. Taylor with an aggressive mark against him. I believe that's Bellinger. Back to Marquette.
Boston's being very clear about their vertical spacing. They're getting 1 cutter isolated at a time, but those cutters aren't getting the separation they need from the DC defense.
Quick give and go between Marquette and Jeff Graham. Taylor looking for Brower Jarris. He's got a wide open cutting Sam Kitross Schnell, and he reels it in. KS.
We could see the disc hop there a little bit. The wind is going to be a factor today unless it calms down as the sun drops. But there were actually 2 deep cutters open there. It was Jeff Graham on the far side and Kitross Schnell on the close side.
So Teddy Brower Jarris knows how to use the wind. Kitross Schnell with a nice read of the disc.
He did a good job of looking it into his hands there. You can see it. He adjusted as he was running down. He broke stride. It was hopping up and down on him. But the goal counts.
And former Tufts E-men. Their ultimate team there. Here right in Medford, just down the street. Reels it in and makes it 3-2, Boston on top. And we have 4:29 left to go here in the first quarter.
That was a pretty quick point for Boston, putting the DC offense right back out. It's early in the game still, so they shouldn't be tired. But this is the sort of thing that begins to add up as we go through the game.
How much do you consider with a game tomorrow? How much is that in their mindset? To try and even conserve energy, if that's the right way to put that.
Well, you would want to conserve a little bit, but you have to win this game first. And it's honestly more important for them to get this one than it is to get the one tomorrow.
Huck for Pryl, or intended for Pryl. McDonald didn't get a piece of it defensively. Maybe he just pushed the wind underneath it.
It's that, and the offensive player, Pryl, couldn't see it because of the bid that was going through, so he couldn't tell if there was contact made or not.
Well, Boston get another chance for a break here as Banerjee gets it back to McDonald.
Boston's getting a little deep here in their offense.
And you see Thomas Edmonds with the big down undercut. McDonald had to be in danger of a stall there. And now timeout on the field. Boston stagnant offense, maybe get their O-line back out there. We'll see what happens as we come back. We're going to step away. It's 3-2, Boston on top of DC.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Everybody, welcome back. Innova is the proud to support Major League Ultimate and its incredible athletes as the official disc of the MLU. The Innova Pulsar has quickly become the disc of choice at Ultimate's highest level. Visit innovadiscs.com to find a dealer near you. Friction Gloves. Wear the same Ultimate gloves as the pros. Friction Gloves help your throws and catches in all conditions. To find out more information and to get a pair, visit frictiongloves.com. See a lot of players out there with some Friction Gloves on. Did you wear gloves when you played, Dusty?
I did not wear gloves when I played. Not even when it was cold out, not when it was wet out. It never even really occurred to me. I wore some of those like leather dress gloves when it was, under 5 degrees, something like that, because you just can't take it.
Right.
Yeah, you're just getting a barrier up there.
Nice shot of the crowd here at Hormel Stadium. Took a while with the delayed start, but it definitely filled out, and we got a beautiful night here for Ultimate.
Well, there were a lot of folks in the parking lot here grilling, tailgating, etc. before the game, and with that extra time, they got to hang out a little bit longer, wait for their late friends to arrive.
Whitecaps doing a nice job here in their first year under new GM Mark Whitley. This was actually supposed to be their first home game, but ended up hosting 2 weeks ago the Rumble, who at the time were still dealing with stadium issues. And here's our first look at the new man here for the current, number 36, Nick Spiva. He'll be out there as both teams switch it up. Boston with their O-line out there and DC with the D-line.
It's mostly the D-line for
You see
DC.
Pryal out there.
Yeah, and
Ong,
and Kolick. So it's like a 3-4 split. They're looking to get the turn and be able to score.
And capitalize. We'll see what Boston can do. They're primarily their O-line as Marquette gets it back to Little, now with a lot of space.
It's a lot of space, but downfield, there's only one cutter moving at a time for the most part.
That's Zid. Graham was making the big downfield cut, now separating from Gibson.
A little messy in the backfield here.
It's McNaughton controlling, and nice grab by Marquette.
Yeah, that's one of those really dangerous cuts in Ultimate where you cut up line and there's a defender coming in also.
Very tight defense here from DC. Graham on that far side. Boston looking to swing it back to the middle. They do so. That's Little. Trying to continue that. Shakes off Chan and finds Marquette.
This close to the end zone, you have to start trying to prevent Marquette from getting the disc. You're not going to be able to stop him once he has it.
McNaughton threading it against Kolick, and Zid, who gets the catch from McNaughton, and he finds Jeff Graham. Take a look at this one again. This is the dangerous throw right there.
Kolick is just a little bit off there, but he was reading that throw and expecting it to come.
Actually, that was Matt Little, not Jeff Graham.
So those headbands.
It is.
Short cropped hair, headbands. It's difficult to tell. He must be playing well if we're mistaking him for Jeff Graham, though.
I think he'd take that compliment.
I would too.
We thought you were Jeff Graham. Really?
And that's the first break so far that we've seen. Boston has sort of drawn first blood here in this contest, and now we'll see how DC goes downwind, and we'll see where this upwind pull from Boston gets to.
It's 4-2, Boston on top. 2:45 left to go here in the first, but we did see that in week one where Boston actually led early, but we've talked about it, and we talked about it in the pregame here. They've had some trouble closing out the games.
And one of the hallmarks of the DC team is that they do not have trouble closing out games. They're charging hard back into the game late most of the time.
Jack Hatchett once again on the pull. Notably, too, Boston without Christian Foster, who was a big player down the stretch for them. As Schaffner airs one out. And nice job there on the D by Sean Doherty right over Tom Doy.
Well, I'd say Doy was actually up higher, but the timing for Doherty there, he went up late and he went up quickly, and he didn't over jump. In a sense, Tom was trying to reach over the defender to grab that disc, and Doherty took the space and didn't let him come through.
Boston setting up here in a vertical stack, looking for their back-to-back breaks. Would be the first one in a while for them. Stevens will air this one out. Hatchett trying to reel this one down. Pryl and Doy giving chase. Jack reaching up, making the catch. Terry Roth wide open downfield, but Hatchett will slow down and wait for his offense.
This is big here. DC's got to try.
Stevens putting it in, looking for Roth, and Terry makes the grab. And does a little backflip.
Little backflip. I think he got a lot there.
I set you up. I say little, you emphasize it.
It's a softball or frisbee. The DC defense there got beat by that same crossfield huck that the DC offense was using earlier, that big flick across the field. It sits and then it arcs back towards the receiver without letting the defender who's trailing make a play on it.
Here's the D by Doherty. And you're right, Tom Doy extended up. Doherty might have just timed it better. And then Stevens with the quick flick over to Terry Roth. Makes it 5-2, Boston on top. Nice shot of Terry on the sideline. We get a good look at him right there. 2 thumbs up here for the third-year veteran of the Whitecaps.
He's been playing well on defense every single year for them.
The Framingham State alumni, former Ram. And there's the DC O-line. He's got a tough go at it right now, and maybe breathing a little heavy too.
I was thinking the same thing. It's a long game, but starting off in that difficult way, we'll see what they're made of.
Finds Kolick. This one floated up. That's Spiza. The new blood here for the Current.
And all he has to do is figure out how to play with this team.
Banerjee giving Kolick a wide berth. Takes advantage. Spiza gets it back. Herskew coming out to mark him. It's a 2-man game here with Spiza and Kolick. He goes back to him for the dump.
DC really needs to attack the other side of the field. Yeah, there we go.
There's Lloyd Blake. First guy, different guy besides Kolick and Spiza to touch it on this point. Kolick, far side now. Approaching a minute left to go. They time this well. They can pin Boston down with not much time, but that's just going to be a throwaway. And we might get a call. It is. Jeff Graham actually out there defensively causing the contact. Loading it in, looking for Spiza on the quick cut. Can't connect.
It's just a throwaway after a stoppage. That's the sort of thing where you need to take that patience. It would have been better for them to run the whole clock out as opposed to try to rush that individual throw.
Yeah, that's Tyler Monroe with the throwaway. And George Washington, originally from Seattle, though. So let's see what Boston can do in the final under 20 seconds here, putting up a big huck into a crowd. What a catch there. Sean Doherty. Whitecaps will have to hurry up. Banerjee gets it back. They put it into the end zone. Was he in? They call it in. Matthew McDonald got just enough of the end zone turf there. Keep that in bounds. I got to see this again.
I tell you, it looked really close from up here, but if he got his feet in, that's a great catch.
Quick little dump from Doherty to Banerjee. Wasted no time.
I still can't tell.
It's hard. Ong was right in the way, too. He thought it might have been out, but
the ref was cowering out of the way. That's a tough look right there.
Well, they give it to Boston, and they're not going to argue it. I'll make it 6-2. Whitecaps opening up here in the first.
Yeah, it's really the sort of thing where it's almost as though DC wasn't entirely prepared for the speed at which Boston was ready to play after the turn.
So DC will have 2 seconds here. Maybe get one big huck downfield. You see Schaffner, he's kind of the go-to guy in this situation with the big cannon.
Looks like they're checking for about how much time should be left on the clock.
Schaffner wants 5 seconds. You see him good look at him.
Maybe more than doubles too, so that's a worthy argument on his part if they can get 3 more seconds up here.
Well, we saw in that first week 1 game, the point that actually would send it into overtime. DC had just a couple of seconds left too, and Schaffner was the guy. Kolick reeled it in, and quick pass over to him, and he just launched it. So he has the ability.
He's one of the best distance throwers in the league. He puts it from any point onto the field to just about any other point. So yeah, we'll get 5 seconds here. It looks like Jeff Graham's going to be coming out with sort of a forehand roller here. I expect it to roll towards our side, the close sideline here.
There it is. The roll goes towards midfield and now takes that turn.
He'd be wise not to pick it up quickly. Just wait. Wait for your teammates to get down.
McDonald on the mark. Ong quickly up ahead to Schaffner. That's who they wanted to go to. He launches it. It's going to be anyone's disc. It's tipped, and it's tipped out the back until Rico Johnson. He seems to be the go-to guy in that situation. Can't come down with it.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the first quarter. 6-2. We'll step away. Second quarter coming up here. Whitecaps on top of the current.
Hey, Philly sports fans, come on out to Villanova Stadium on Saturday, May 30th at 6:30 p.m. to see what professional ultimate frisbee is all about as the New York Rumble take on your Philadelphia Spinners. It's Luau Night. Come celebrate the beginning of summer with giveaways, prizes, and autographs, and one lucky fan will get a chance to win $500 cash. Tickets start at just $16 now at spinnerstix.com.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. Whitecaps on top of the current 6-2 as we get set to start the second quarter. You know, Dusty, I saw a couple of guys down on the field playing Can Jam. Can Jam is a proud sponsor of the MLU here in 2015. It's a fast-paced disc game, perfect for the backyard tailgating or warming up for Ultimate. Get Can Jam today at the team store or online at canjam.com. Use bonus code ULTIMATE for 10% off of your purchase. Skippy Peanut Butter. Skippy, the official peanut butter of the MLU, made with the funnest peanuts ever. Skippy, yippee! Let's look at our refereeing crew. Kind of had a tough task, at least on that initial call for the goal that McDonald scored.
Well, there's
Coach Moldenauer talking about it.
There's a handful of things that they need to make sure they get right. It's going to be even a little more difficult for them as they have a couple of new refs working with them. This is their first game. They're prepared, they're practiced, they're experienced, they've been tested. But to come out and ref your first game with full-speed players can be a bit of a challenge. They can sneak up on you really quickly, and you need to make sure that you're in position not just to not be in the way, but also to make the call.
Whitecaps lead here 6-2 as we get set to start the second quarter here at Hormel Stadium. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes on our MLU Live Game of the Week. DC actually playing the first night of a doubleheader. They will be at New York tomorrow. Currently undefeated, 2-0. Boston 1-2, actually coming off a victory over the Rumble here 2 weeks ago. Both teams coming off a bye is notable as well.
Yeah, so they should be pretty well prepared for this game on the whole, maybe a little bit of rust. One of the things that they're also playing for right now is that over the time that the MLU has existed, it's 5-4 between these two teams.
Right.
So if they come out with my papers are blowing away here. Pardon me for just a moment.
The wind is affecting us too, folks.
So one of the things that we've seen over the course of the league thus far is that these are the two teams who are always in the Eastern Conference playoff. So when we watch these two play, they sort of set the tone for the entire conference. And if DC can come back in this game, whether or not they win it, that'll still be a statement that these are the two teams to beat in the conference. And this is where it's all going to start. They're getting to start here on defense, which is the only way that you can make up points. But you still have to throw the disc all the way down the field to the other team to start it instead of having them throw it to you.
Well, that's one of the things, actually, speaking to Coach Moldenhauer, the Current before the game, he still is not happy with their defensive efficiency in terms of getting the defense to score. They just haven't been able to do it here in just the first 2 games of the season. But
yeah, that's one of the key things in Ultimate in general, and that's something that differentiates the best teams from the mid-level teams, is not just having the opportunities to break your opponent, but converting on those, making them count.
And we'll see what DC's defense can come up with here. Boston already a couple of breaks of their own. Gave them that 6-2 lead. And we've got 10 more minutes back up on the clock to close out our first half. DC pulling once again to Boston, and Jake Taylor going down to one knee. To start this one off, finds Marquette.
Boston, as usual, in a vertical stack here with isolated cutters on either side.
That's Graham. Him and Gibson have been matched up all night. And Broward Jarris. Teddy having to deal with Nate Castine. Number 19, that's Jeff Smith. One of the newcomers here finds Tyler Chan, who already might have a bid at the catch of the week with his opening scoring grab. And we have a whistle. Foul going back, I believe, on the throw, so it'll go back to Chan. And he'll march it up 10 yards. Chan still a college student at Tufts. Has a lot of Tufts friends here in the crowd tonight. Callahan nominee as well.
Indeed, it's the top award for the College Player of the Year.
Another whistle.
And he's been making it happen in college, and now he's up here in the pros.
In the pros doing it. Pick against the Current. No one's going to be against Boston.
Now we've got a breather. We're going to see what happens out of the stoppage. Boston tends to have a very clear motion out of their stoppage, usually from the back of the stack, but they're on the sideline here, so it may come from the very top here.
Taylor trying to get free. And Marquette still trying to shake off his mark. Quickly up ahead. Nice grab. That's Smith. Back to Marquette. Marquette swings at this one, floating, and Chan rips it away.
And again, you saw the defender go up early.
This one floated, and DC will take it back.
Looking for the end zone right away.
And there it is. No time, no problem.
Looks like Brian Marshall on the score there from Castine. He was entirely open after the turnover happened. Either Boston was still believing that they had the disc, they hadn't realized the turnover happened, or they just miscovered people.
We'll take a look at this one again. There it is, the big huck.
That's a nice toss.
Marshall.
Nice little soft fall on it. A lot of times when you see a player that open, players will have a tendency to overthrow them. They'll get excited. They'll put too much power on the disc. But in that situation, he had just the right edge on it. It sat down in the wind, and Marshall was able to get the goal. Now we're going to get a chance to see if DC can start their own defensive run after Boston's 4-point run with 3 breaks to finish the first quarter.
Also see if Boston's O-line may be a little gassed after playing that last one. Graham back out there. They do have a couple of switches. Montgomery Butler was not out on the last point, is in there. And DC will pull. First break of the game for the Current, making it 6-3. Boston still on top. Here's Montgomery Butler. Quickly up ahead to McNaughton. Graham still.
It's a really nice jump cut to get open there by Graham in the lane.
Now he's being guarded by Timothy Jackson here. Up to Chan.
And Tyler Chan just beat that guy in a foot race.
And Chan, I think he was going to Marquette. I don't know if Marquette knew that, but he backed away from it, couldn't get it. Reels in this one, though, from Montgomery Butler, who did get Chan's pass. And then who's wide open? That's Jeff Graham.
The issue there for the defenders is that they were caught flat-footed multiple times from sort of the center of the field where the stack was. And as we'll see here, they reel it in, and then this next cutter comes straight across, and there's nobody near him because once he started his cut, the defender hadn't caught up, was not ready, wasn't on his toes.
Well, Boston with some routine and easy offense right there. Graham wide open. And we have 7:36 left to go here in the first half. It's 7-3. Boston now on top. Good look at Jeff. As he heads back to the sideline. I saw a glimpse of Tom Matthews, who's normally the assistant coach here for the Whitecaps, but acting as head coach tonight. No Sam Rosenthal on the sidelines. And what will DC's offense be able to do in unfamiliar territory, being down 7-3?
Part of that is not trying to do too much right away. They only give you 1 point for each goal.
Kolek gets it up to Spiva, who airs this one out. That's Schaffner downfield once again. Simmons trying to D it up, but Schaffner with the great timing and the great jump. And he's got 3 goals on the night already. He's not usually the guy scoring them. He's usually throwing them.
Well, part of the issue with that is you'll get defenders to overplay you towards the disc so you can take them deep here. And as the throw goes up here in a bit, you'll see that Schaffner has the far position. The disc floats a little bit, but Schaffner holds off the defender, establishes the inside route, and just maintains, gets up first. It wasn't a perfect throw, but your receiver has to make up for your imperfect throws, and that's why you'll still be able to throw Schaffner downfield.
Did a nice job of it, makes it 7-4, 7:22 left to go here in the half.
It was a very quick score.
I think that's what DC needs to do to try and crawl back into this one.
It's all about getting the Boston offense back out there when they're a little more tired. A 13-second point is exactly what results in that.
Let's see, look at the Boston O-line.
Now Boston's coming out in more of a spread here with 4 players on the close side to us and 2 players on the far side.
Quickly up to Brouwer Jarris. Teddy turning around, putting a deep put, looking for Graham. It's floated, and it's D'd up nicely.
By Castine there.
It's Castine, yes.
He he dropped off the far player on the field, again, close to us, and got a D on someone else. So that's the way you play team-level help defense.
DC will try for another break here.
Boston's in sort of a soft zone right now. They have 1 guy deep, and they're leaving a player open on the very far side.
Dom Gibson sends it back. Delrico Johnson, the hero against the Whitecaps last time out. Here's a big huck downfield, reeled in nicely by Wiggins.
It was a rocket of a throw by Castine.
Wiggins with the hammer. 1 guy down there, it's Dominique Gibson.
And Wiggins was walking off the field before that was even caught. He knew it was perfect, and he knew the receiver could be relied upon.
Very Larry Bird-esque.
Well, you practice
the three-pointer and walking away.
Or Steph Curry, for that matter. You practice it enough, and you know when that disc leaves your hand whether it's a perfect throw or not. It might still be caught if it's imperfect, but the feel when it leaves your fingers, you know.
And Gibson was right there to reel it in as we take another look. That was actually Marquette who was trying to get that one for Boston, and the quick hammer from Wiggins, and Gibson just had to wait for it to come down.
Cut Brouwer Jarris with his back to the thrower, didn't see the disc go up, couldn't close on it effectively.
So once again, Boston's O-line back out there.
And just that quickly, DC is back within 2.
7-5, 6.5 left to go here in the second. As all of a sudden the Current started to find themselves here and improving that defensive efficiency, which is what Coach Moldenhauer wanted. See if they can do it again. Montgomery Butler sends it out to McNaughton. McNaughton looking for Marquette, trying to get around.
The wind is picking up a little bit.
Sends it to Little.
DC's tight all over the field right now.
Little quickly back to Zid. Gets it right back. He's got Graham on the dump. Now all of a sudden Boston's offense not moving very much. And they said they're gonna air this one out. Zid down there, he's got 1 man defending him, and Zid has it. It's bobbled, and there's another Boston player coming in, making the grab, but it was McNaughton. He couldn't keep it all the way down to the ground. A referee had initially signaled a score, but then McNaughton walked away from it, didn't have control. DC another chance for a break.
Had it for a moment, just couldn't keep with it. There's a lot of people falling on the field right now.
There's another one. Another air out. Reeled in.
That's a really difficult pass. The guy who was coming up for the receiver there was running at full speed, and the thrower put it out in front of him with pace on it. There's no adjustment there to be made. If it's an imperfect throw, as it was, it's a definite turnover.
And now a whistle with 5:04 left to go as Boston had just taken possession back.
Looks like a pick downfield here.
Teddy Brower-Jaris potentially being called for the pick, and Boston will march it back. Matt Little gets it back.
Boston's
Bellinger
looking tired.
on him.
DC's up in their physicality downfield. There's a lot more bumping going on right now.
Big bid, I believe, by Cantone, and this one is not going to be close.
DC needs to score this. While it's best if they can attack right away,
timeout.
They're going to call a timeout instead. The DC defense was ready to go there. They really wanted to score that, but getting your offense back on the field can make a difference.
We'll step away as DC takes the timeout. It's 7-5, Boston on top, but the Current threatening. Do you have an athletic event, team, or corporate outing coming up? If so, charter a private bus, minibus, or party bus from U.S. Coachways. Bus travel is one of the safest, greenest, and most affordable ways to get your group to an event. If you're going with a group, trust U.S. Coachways. That's what we do. Disc Store. Go to discstore.com to purchase official merchandise of Major League Ultimate. Game discs, apparel, accessories, and more. DiscStore.com is the world's premier supplier of Ultimate Frisbee products and the official store of the MLU. DiscStore.com. That's DiscStore.com. 7-5 game here with 4.5 left to go. A nice shot of the skyline here in Medford, just on the outskirts of Boston, Massachusetts.
Somehow we're not catching the wind power, which is just off the left of the screen here, which is the first thing I notice every time I'm here.
A big windmill. As we are currently still in a timeout, DC threatening a shot at our crowd.
Got a decent number of people out here today. They're making noise when the Whitecaps are doing well, but right now they're a little bit quiet, a little bit nervous, just like you can see from the Whitecaps a little bit. So when we're coming out here out of this stoppage, it looks like DC is going to be putting in their full offense, and the Whitecaps are putting in basically a full defensive line. So it's a full switch here. The pace of the game slows down a little bit, and if DC doesn't score this, their offense is subject to a break as well.
Well, DC needs this score. 7-5 would make it a 1-point game. Boston's still up a break or two.
It's always a tough decision if you want to pull your defense off the field in that situation, because it's better to wear the other team's offense out, but you need the goal more than anything.
Kolek's going to start things off. He's got Blake back with him. Instead, gets it up to Pryle. Hatchet on him. Finds Doy. This is Doy's first action since week 1. Kolek quickly up ahead, and they reel it in. Lloyd Blake.
As we talked about
No
earlier,
problem.
He's been getting upfield a little more comfortable leaving the space behind the disc for his other teammates to fill in. And as we saw during that point, one of the most reliable players for DC is Tom Doy, catching the disc, throwing it up to Kolek, who can then continue to Blake.
Current very happy to have Tom Doy back out there for them. Had a sprained ankle he suffered against the Whitecaps. And Coach Moldenhauer was kind of surprised he was ready to go for this game. He didn't expect that, actually. And just like that, it's a one-possession game, 7-6. Boston still on top, but DC has now outscored them 4-1 here in the second quarter. Looking for more.
We have a timeout called here.
We do have a timeout. So we'll step away once again. 4:17 left to go here in the second. It's 7-6. Boston on top of DC. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. We look inside the DC huddle. You see assistant coach Will Smolinski working with the D-line here, the Current, out of the timeout.
And one of the way DC structures their coaching staff is that Coach Smolinski is only responsible for the defense, and Coach Moldenhauer only handles the offense. Yes, they talk to each other in between planning practices, that sort of thing, but when it comes to game day management, it's definitively split between the two, so they have a little more focus on either side.
Something actually I think Boston tries to do as well with Sam Rosenthal and Tom Matthews, but Tom, now the head coach tonight without Sam Rosenthal, actually defensive captain who is out for the season due to a shoulder injury, John Hirschberger, acting as the unofficial assistant coach of the Whitecaps tonight.
And it's always nice to see players who have suffered an injury or whatever coming in to help out their team elsewise, because it builds belief in your team. It shows that it's not just the players on the field who make all this happen.
We're still in the timeout here as we look at the Boston sideline. Boston will be getting the disc and would love to stop the bleeding a little bit. As I said right before our break, DC has outscored the Whitecaps 4-1 here in the second quarter. The offense has gone stagnant here. DC's defense has picked up, and they will be pulling from half field out of that timeout.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. DC actually called another timeout there. They called this timeout so they can pull from half field to set up their defense to try to tie this game.
And again, we're seeing the Whitecaps spread all the way across the field to receive this pull because they're not sure which side it's going to. DC is going to be aiming to put something bladey and fast-paced toward the back of the end zone so that Boston won't have a chance to field it cleanly and hopefully pin them back in the end zone. It'll be exciting to see how this goes. We haven't seen either of these two teams in this situation, as they had a bye week last week, and they will have had time to work on this and determine exactly what it is they're looking for.
Wiggins will be doing the honors of trying to pull and set this one right down, but it's just going to drop in the wind here and be picked up by Marquette.
It still puts pressure on them with respect to fielding, but they're at the end zone line as opposed to all the way back.
Sam Kitross-Schnell up to Teddy Brouwer-Jars, fakes a huck.
Boston's offense is doing a good job right now of taking advantage of the aggression of the DC defenders. They're
Nice
kind of jumping on the original cuts.
Dig out there low.
And
by
Boston
Marquette.
is taking the second options in their offense.
Kitross-Schnell looking for someone to dump this disc back to. And a stall is called. He had no one to go to. Good defense by DC.
Defense didn't get that fast break right away, but they're still confident on offense right now. They're controlling both sides of the field.
Dominique Gibson up to Wiggins. DC looking to tie with 3.5 left to go. But that one a little bit too high. Couldn't come down with it. Danny Denon.
That's some of the first action we've seen him in, and that's the sort of play that he needs to make to ensure that he gets more points.
Nice layout grab. Boston trying to put this one in, and they do to Jeff Graham. Whitecaps were needing that one, and they got it. Push it back up to 8-6.
It's those little errors, those chances that you have to get a break against a team that's gassed. You can see here the Boston players coming off the field are looking a little tired, a little haggard, and he just needed to make that catch against the soft defense.
And another look at it again. Graham with the sliding catch.
That's just another run-of-the-mill catch for him. He makes all the tough ones. He makes everything look easy. It's just a pleasure to watch him play.
So you look at him right there, getting the high fives from all his teammates. And a look at the camera. Jeff, the Offensive Player of the Year last season, MVP of the 2013 Finals, despite leaving that game with a concussion.
I was happy they noticed it. That was a tough fall he took during
Yeah.
that game. Scary moment in the stadium for sure.
Actually, our only two champions of the MLU squaring off once again tonight. Boston in the inaugural season, 2013, DC 1 year ago. Boston defeating San Francisco, DC defeating Vancouver. Who will it be this year? 3:12 left to go here in the half.
DC's coming out in a horizontal stack here.
Calvin Ong starting. He's going to air this one out, looking downfield for Pryle. This one dying quickly, and Pryle not able to catch up to that. Just sailed away from him.
It looks like he misjudged it a little bit right away, but that also seemed to be a called play where Ong was just going to put it up to Pryle on that far side. It was just a little deep. If it curled back toward the field better, would have been a completion for a goal.
Stevens will start this one off. Finds, oh, nice layout there by Banerjee. He's been all over this game.
Really scooped that up.
Was a low throw from Wilburn. Another low throw, though, from Banerjee, and Roth can't get much with that, and that's an easy play for the Current.
Well, the awareness of Kolek to just pick that disc up, hop back, and throw the goal immediately made that easy.
Peter
Pryle was ready there for the goal.
His first score of the night, as DC has really spread the love here on the scoring end. Marshall, Schaffner, Gibson, Blake, and now Pryle as we take a look again. 5 different scorers here in the second quarter for the Current.
Ladies and gentlemen, during that last break right there, a fan came over to me and asked me if I could help them to help you.
And so far, each team has gone on a 4-point run. The Boston Whitecaps went on a 4-point run to end the first quarter. DC came back. They traded the first 2 points, and then went on a 4-point run in the second quarter. Now we'll see how the rest of this plays out. They've made their statements. They've shown that they can both come back and extend their leads. But now we'll see how it plays out over the long form of the rest of the game.
This is organic. It came from the fans.
Very much closed the gap as Boston came out running
That little tryout. See how
in that first quarter, up 6-2. It's all of a sudden 8-7, 2.5 left to go. Just about here in the second quarter. And Boston will look to respond. DC's defense, though, has been impressive here in this second quarter. Arquette trying to dance around his man. Stall count getting up high, dumps it back to Little. DC's done a nice job of getting Boston into high stall counts in the second quarter.
It's a product of the downfield D.
Here's the downfield cut, looking for Graham. It's D'd up nicely. I think that was Wiggins. Cantone.
And he's starting to find a role for himself in this team. It's the first year he's playing with them as well. Early on, he was playing a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. It looks like he's going to settle into sort of a defensive role, and if he continues making plays like that, they'll get their chances to work on the defensive scoring efficiency.
Anytime you D up Jeff Graham. 1:44 left to go.
Boston's in a little zone here. They popped right through the center of the zone, which it looked like was where Boston is forcing them to play through. Shouldn't really be that easy to get through the core of your defense.
Freddie Sy dumps it back to Egan. So you see the double team coming on, now backs off. That's Marshall.
DC's showing good patience, but it's not clear that they've worked out what exactly Boston is doing.
Antone digs that one out. Boston aggressive defensively here as they've got DC just sending the disc side to side. Marshall, low one, and it hit the turf. It did. And now Boston will look for the quick score. And they send it out. And who's all alone? I believe that's Zid. Brian Zid, yes. These pink headbands are throwing me off. Guys who are not usually wearing them have them on tonight. And that's Zid, who's one of them. And you're going to look at him walking off the field. Here's the look at the D.
This is great D. I don't think Graham knew he was coming from that angle. He was expecting one of the other defenders.
And then Zid just all alone in that back corner.
Yeah, that's the confusion that happens after the Current were running a zone defense there, and it's tough to match up. Or the Whitecaps were running a zone defense there, and it's tough for the Current to match up out of that. If they attack quickly, you haven't found your matchup. There was nobody right near you to latch onto. And it was really that Boston defensive zone that slowed down the Current enough that they were unsure. They were second-guessing their looks. There were a couple open players that they weren't hitting immediately. Eventually, it just led to an execution error, a simple turf pass. That gives away your break opportunity and puts Boston back up two.
Whitecaps call a timeout, looking for that half-field pull. We'll take it two as we're under a minute here in the second quarter. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. You see those guys wearing the Canterbury jerseys. Canterbury, the official apparel supplier of Major League Ultimate. Dress like a pro. Visit www.canterburyus.com, the destination for all your team's custom uniforms and athletic apparel needs. Canterbury, proud partner of Major League Ultimate, committed to the game. Players are also wearing .6 socks. .6 socks, the official sock sponsor of Major League Ultimate. Check out www.point6.com for their full line of performance merino wool socks. All kinds of apparel.
You got to keep your feet happy in order to run happy. Otherwise, you're thinking about the wrong things as you're out there. Your feet pounding on the ground, cleats coming through. Oh, it's painful.
Well, Boston called timeout after the score from Zid, so they will pull from midfield. Jack Hatchett with the disc in his hands right now. You see, look at him. He's got Stevens, Simmons, Doherty, Katz. And actually, off camera on the end of the line is Tanner Johnson, currently a high school student from Lexington, Massachusetts. A young man with his first MLU action. And immediately he's going to be tested as this one is going to be try to run down. Oh, he just couldn't get to it.
As that throw went up, he was actually coming under, and Kolek threw it deep anyway. It looked like it was a slight miscommunication, but you can see the speed that he almost caught up to that disc with.
Spiva, the new guy. Well, Boston with approximately 40 seconds left to go here. Enough time for them to score. Simmons with the disc finds Doherty. Boston has not had a break in a while. Up to Katz. Katz airing this one out, looking downfield. Man coming on is Kolek, making and leaping up for the grab. I believe that's Jeff Smith. Or Tom Edmonds. Thomas Edmonds.
Puts a lot of pace on this disc, and it still floats.
Thomas Edmonds, one of the Wildcats from the University of New Hampshire. He's been labeled as a speed guy here for the team, and we saw his speed right there as he puts Boston back up by 3, 10-7.
It was a big one there. The DC offense needed to play a little bit better on defense as they lost track of a couple players on this close sideline. And while the throws were going directly into the wind, the Boston throwers are more than capable of dealing with it, just like the DC players are.
Well, DC's O-line staying out there, and now in the situation Boston had been for most of this second quarter, where they had just expelled a lot of energy. So let's see how they come out and respond with just 21 seconds left to go here in the half.
And that was Boston's first break in this quarter to bring them back within 2 here. Although they're going to be looking for their next one. DC's got 20 seconds. I think they'll probably get a shot at the end zone as the clock expires here.
Trying to even up the scoring. Right now, DC still outscoring Boston in this second quarter, 5-4.
20 seconds is actually a lot of time. You can make a lot of different passes and have a handful of different looks.
Ong looked for that deep throw. Said sends a short one. Here's the deep throw. And they didn't even have to touch that one. Doherty right in front of it. Now Boston with a chance. They can air this one out. It's just a very short throw. Might have had a hand on it from Pryl. That's how we will close the books on the first half. Impressive runs by both teams, but Boston on top 10-7 here at halftime. And we will step away. We'll have some halftime action for you coming up here at Hormel Stadium. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. It's 10-7 Boston on top of DC at halftime as we get a chance to check in with the head coach of the Current, Kevin Moldenhauer. He's down on the sideline.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining us for a moment here. Dusty Rhodes here. I just have a couple questions.
Yep, no problem.
First, what do you think of the first half? How's the wind affecting both teams here?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. How do you think the wind here is affecting both teams thus far in the first half?
I don't think the wind has been too much of a factor. I mean, you haven't seen too many throws popping up. I think there were 1 or 2 throws that popped up. I think it's, if anything, it's making more of a mental difference than a physical difference on the field.
As far as missing a couple players for your offensive line, what has the absence of Wodach meant for your team, and how have you decided to deal with that throughout this game?
So one of the things that Wodach does very well is he stretches the field, and so we've been trying to send guys away to stretch the field. We're a little bit unsuccessful in that right now in terms of the fact that they're setting a sort of a zone-ish, sort of clamming us down a little bit, and we're getting a little bogged in. That, and we're having a lot of unforced turnovers, and that's just you can't do that.
That's always the
it's
always the
me.
case.
It's hurting my soul.
It makes us sad up here in the booth sometimes too. What are you guys going to be focusing on coming out in the second half? Just execution, or are there any other tactical things you want to work on?
Sure. Okay. So defensively in the first half, especially in the beginning of the first half, you saw us off their man when they were going upwind. I'm not sure why we were allowing them to make in cuts, but that's going to stop. You saw that shift happening as we started to make our little run there to make a comeback. So defensively, you're going to see us forcing them away and then make plays like Chuck made on Jeff over there in the end zone. In terms of offense, we're going to continue to spread the field, but hopefully some of those connections will either be a little bit cleaner, we'll make those plays, and we'll have better throws, or if we have to, we'll take the unders. But you know, our team likes to rip it, and so I don't have a problem with it, but we need to start making better throws.
That was great, Kevin. Thanks for your time, and thanks for doing the interview. We look forward to seeing your team come out in the second half.
Great, no problem. Thank you.
That's Coach Moldenhauer there on the sideline. It's 10-7 here at halftime. Boston on top of the Current. We'll step away here. We'll come back with some more at Hormel Stadium.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. 10-7 here at halftime. Boston on top of DC. As we get set, let's take a look back at that first half. We saw some highlight-worthy players right from the get-go, pretty much. From both of these teams, it's been an exciting time here. Take a look early on. This very low throw, and that just set the table for the game, that layout by Tyler Chan.
Well, and that's the sort of effort we expect from all of these players. You can see, again, he's just going for the extra yardage there, confirming the play with another layout because he doesn't want to be shown up by the other team.
And then Banerjee with the big D against. Hatchett with the big grab, but Pryle answered right back. Stevens with a little flick.
And the way that Pryle was able to make that D there is he knew there was a deep cut coming, so he stayed with it.
Maybe the Roth flip was the real highlight.
Just showing us things that we can't do. That was a fantastic catch there. Fleming would have taken that disc away.
Spiva airing this one out. Schaffner was a big role as a cutter in this one, and he had just great positioning there against Simmons.
And had the strength to maintain it as they were jockeying for position.
I think that one was your favorite, the hammer from Wiggins.
It's a beautiful, confident throw.
This was the big D from Cantone towards the end of that first half against Jeff Graham, of all people. So,
Which even Coach Moldenhauer was impressed by, and you don't hear that too often from him.
and you can see that windmill going hard right now. So that's what these players are dealing with. Is what we're dealing with up here. It's 10-7 here at Hormel Stadium. We'll step away once again here at halftime. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium at halftime, 10-7, Boston on top of the Current. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes. We saw the plays of the first half. Let's step in our time machine, though, and take a look at the previous week and the plays of the week that we saw from 1 week ago when both of these teams were actually on bye.
We got to change up the faces.
That's
Get
right,
familiar
that's
with
right.
the league as a whole.
So we'll take a look first, the defensive play of the week. Staying in the East Coast, though, with Matt Esser.
This was one of my favorite blocks from watching this game, and there were a handful of them. He chases down Scott Zoo here, makes the bid in front of him where the offensive player has to come back for the disc instead of being able to run it out fully.
Philadelphia went on to beat the Rumble in that game. Rumble still looking for their first win as we move over to the catch of the week. This is a fun catch, is the way I will label by James Sheridan of the San Francisco Dogfish as we head out west.
You would say fun, and what I would say is this is a focused catch.
That's
He's
a good
fully
way.
in the moment
He
to
gets-
make a catch like this.
Gets the read on the big HUD. His defender comes over. I don't think his defender ever touched it. He's the only one that does. And just that second effort, phenomenal.
And by being the person who goes up first, when you feel that disc slip off of your hand, as he does right there, you know exactly where it's going. All you have to do is make the effort to get there.
Take a look now at some throws. The Innova throw of the week, staying out west, but now over to the Vancouver-Portland game. William Vu.
A lot of space over the top here.
And it's a scuba, but it's with the left hand.
It looks extra goofy, but the way
looks great.
the way that he threw that with the rim up a little bit, and it sat down right for his receiver, right in his receiver's breadbasket, so to speak.
Here's on the other side, the offensive player of the week from Seattle's Matt Neely. This one actually made it on the ESPN Sports Center, laying out for the big grab and the score. Seattle increased their lead right there.
Yeah, they took a big lead early in the game, but it got tight before we got to halftime.
Good layout there from Neely. So the plays of the week, might have already seen some plays of the week next week in our game here tonight. If you can keep track of the time right there as we take a look. Boston, D.C. warming up here to start the second half. It's 10-7. We'll step away. Third quarter coming up here at Hormel.
Hey, Philly sports fans, come on out to Villanova Stadium on Saturday, May 30th at 6:30 p.m. to see what professional ultimate frisbee is all about as the New York Rumble take on your Philadelphia Spinners. It's Luau Night. Come celebrate the beginning of summer with giveaways, prizes, and autographs, and one lucky fan will get a chance to win $500 cash. Tickets start at just $16 now at spinnerstix.com.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. It's 10-7 as we get ready to start the third quarter, but we talked about what these teams would have to do to win this game early on. Let's see, how much have they done that, Dusty? Let's take a look at DC. These were their keys to the game entering it. Have they done them? Do they need to improve on them? What do they have to keep doing?
Well, on the whole, a lot of this is focused on what they need to do to stay in this game tonight. It's about playing this game as opposed to worrying about tomorrow's game. It's about keeping your mental game up, your focus ready. And as we mentioned repeatedly when people come up to Boston, because it is a legitimately long trip, you have to get out of the bus and get out of that bus mindset where you're just ready to sit and wait and sit some more. And what they did in the first half here is, while Boston went off to the first run, DC did not get down. They came back in the second quarter and made their own 4-point run just to make this game only 3 points at halftime. That's pretty much a victory in the first half for DC, coming to an away stadium that in which the home team has a 15-1 record, and sticking with them after they made that opening statement of a 4-0 run to end the first quarter.
Let's take a look on the other side. Boston came out strong. They faltered a little bit in that second quarter, but picked it back up towards the end. Have they applied their keys to the game, and what do they have to keep doing to win this game?
On the whole, the most important one here, as we mentioned from the beginning, is finishing the job. They got up to a big lead early. They were up 6-2. And after that point, there was a quarter break. DC reorganized a little bit, recommitted to playing defense, and then Boston let them back into the game. If they had sort of maintained that lead or even just prevented a 4-point run at a 2-point run, that would have been a much better way of presenting themselves early in the game.
Well, we'll see if these two teams can apply those as we head to the third quarter, but we'll step away once again here at Hormel Stadium. Boston looking to close out the current, up 10-7. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. We get a good look at the Whitecaps huddle. You can hear shipping up to Boston in the background as the Whitecaps looking to get their win here tonight. Hopefully improve to 2-2 in their minds.
And the fans out here are getting raucous. They're getting ready. They're getting pumped up by the music. They're being idiots in the best sense of the word. They're giving everything they have to the team on the field and not worrying about how they present themselves, you know?
See a look at the crowd. You know, the Idiots was actually the nickname for the 2004 Red Sox. So I think it's as a Boston native myself, it's a little bit of a compliment.
Brandishing the facial hair,
yeah, exactly,
etc. One of the things we mentioned earlier in the game is that both of these teams sort of have a domination of the other teams in the league. Thus far, DC against Philadelphia and New York is 12-3. Boston against Philadelphia and New York is 12-4. So right now, watching these two teams, we're watching the cream of the crop here in the East. How this plays out with DC needing to come back, with Boston needing to maintain a league, this is what the rest of the conference looks at. This is how they judge the rest of their season. If Boston is handed a loss here, they're down fighting with everybody else for second place. If Boston wins here, then there's two teams that are starting to separate themselves from Philadelphia and New York.
Hey, we talked a little bit about it's quite a difference with only a 10-game season. The difference between being 2-2 versus 1-3, which is what Boston faces, as DC comfortably right now at 2-0, and Boston having that doubleheader to open up their season and losing both those games. This is a huge game for especially the Whitecaps tonight. And we'll start off on defense.
And as you can see here, just like Coach Moldenhauer was talking about, Boston tends to come out in a softer look.
Pryl out, looking for the big huck. He's got Schaffner downfield, or Kolick rather. Doherty, and incoming, that's Eric Wilburn. Kolick nearly had the catch on the rebound, and it hits the ground. Kolick looking for a call.
There was a lot of body there from Wilburn.
Looked like it.
And that's really not the first time he's introduced
No.
himself to an opponent that way. We saw that the very first week playing against Philadelphia when he was covering Hiranet.
It's a gamble. I talked to him a little bit about it, and he says he likes to be aggressive, maybe throw off his opponent as Boston just throws it away right there. Too much contact that time, and now DC will get it right back.
Not sure why Blake waited that long to engage his reset there. He probably should have just swung it off the sideline immediately.
Another big huck, this time looking for their big deep field down cutter. That's Pryl, and he reels it in.
Then again, some teams can just reset it to the sideline, rip it down the tight sideline to an open player who's beat his guy by 10 yards.
So DC opens up the third quarter with the score. They nearly had it initially, and just have to go to that second chance, and Pryl tracks it down. Take a look at this one again. First, here's the play, and there was a lot of contact. See Doherty with a lot of hands too on Kolick, and then Wilburn crashing in.
I got to tell you, that looked like a foul on Wilburn. He did like a spin move with the elbow high, and then he got his hand up near Kolick's neck. He just can't be doing that.
And Pryl just beats Jack Hatchett downfield. And we here at the league love to still mention that Peter Pryl has yet to play in a losing effort here in the MLU.
It's a quirk on some level, but at the same time, he's involved in all of those wins.
True. Lone DC loss a season ago. He was not here in Boston. And right now it is 10-8. 9 minutes on the dot left to go here in the third quarter. Point taking a whole minute. And Boston will look to respond. Montgomery Butler up to Graham. Graham gets tangled up, goes down, no foul called. There's Tyler Chan on the far side. He's been quiet since that first quarter. And I'll whistle away from the disc.
Got a player down here.
DC player hobbling.
Looks like Brian Marshall. Maybe an ankle. Going to bring in John Egan as a substitute.
Well, he's off the field under his own power, so that's a good sign. Trainer will attend to him. Keep an eye, see if he comes back. DC already without a couple of bodies. No Jeff Wodach, no David Cranston. Cranston, one of their best D-line guys, as Graham fakes the huck. Instead, just sends a quick pass over to Little, who stumbled there for a second. And now he's hurt. And that was just on his own. He didn't collide with anybody, but now he's hobbling.
That's an unlucky point there for both teams.
Just slipped maybe a little bit as he came up with that catch. And that'll bring in Jake Taylor. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Taylor tonight. Normally a big player on this and top handler for the O-line.
Well, they're shuffling lines a little bit around as they regained Marquette's presence on the O-line as well.
True.
But there's no way Taylor's going to disappear. He makes too much of a difference.
Nice catch by McNaughton, rolling to the ground, sends it back out to Marquette. Marquette faking the low flick against Wiggins. He's got to dump it back to Graham. Beats Gibson. Gibson collects himself, gets back on the mark. Quickly back to Taylor, who's pretty much right where he started. And then he came in.
Boston really isn't creating enough space for their cutters here. They're creating space on the far side of the field, but the throwers have to work around a vertical stack in the center to get over there.
Right back to Taylor, as Boston has nothing going here offensively.
If DC can amp up the intensity a little bit right now and create a block, they're going to be in a good way.
Good layout bid, and he comes up with it. That's Zid.
It was an incredible catch. It was fading away. It had been tipped, and he gave the effort to get there.
McNaughton looked downfield for Chan, shakes him off. Instead, quickly up to Marquette, and in the move, he finds Jeff Graham.
It was a good inside break there as Castine was playing the dump back around so that we couldn't get a swing pass, and he led him up to a position where he could easily deliver the throw for the score there.
So the great catch here as Taylor, it just went right past him, and Zid with the bailout and the layout.
Looked like it may have been down.
Very close.
Not sure if the rotation changed due to the hand or the ground, but it was very close.
Very, very close. And Jeff Graham getting the catch for the score right in stride was Marquette, wasting no time. Take a look again at the sideline of the Whitecaps and Jeff Graham. So 11-8 now, 7:17 left to go.
And the key there was that pass led Marquette into a space where he had the time to set his feet or not set his feet or get them in however he wanted. It was his choice. The balance and the ability to deliver the pass.
Boston pulling. Lloyd Blake reels this one in. Blake, after having a huge game 2 weeks ago.
A lot of space down here for whichever cutter.
There goes Schaffner taking off. Now we'll head back under as Ong has no mark on him. Boston keeping a player downfield. That's Herskew, actually, who's not marking anybody. Now he comes in.
Moving really slowly there.
Tom Doy, back to Kolick. Spiva. He had Pryle downfield. Instead, they keep it on that far side. There's the big huck looking for Pryle. Ong is back there as well. It's tipped up in the air, and Boston comes up with the catch D. Jack Hatchett.
It looks like Pryle's upset about the call there. It may have been a strip or something like that from his perspective, but it doesn't make a difference. The disc is going up deep here.
Stevens will air it out looking for Simmons, the big defensive bid, and Simmons reels it in for the score. Wow. Eric Stevens with the big huck, and Schaffner went all in for it. Very close play, and he's slow to get up. Take a look at this series of plays again. And that is close.
You can't see it from this angle. The camera isn't on the far side.
Pryle might have had a hand on it, and you see, here's the big bid from Schaffner. And really, that was the matchup we saw earlier. Schaffner beat Simmons to the spot, and this time Simmons the winner of that battle.
Despite that, Schaffner covered an incredible amount of ground and made himself very long once he got into the air there. He almost got a finger on that if he didn't actually. The play on the far side, though, where Pryle thought he had caught it in the end zone, there's just no way to tell from here, but his reaction indicates that he was sure that he caught it.
On the second effort, too. He had initially gotten past him. No one had tipped it, but maybe with the wind, it hung up there for a second. And Hatchett coming out of it.
Quickly, we're back out to a 4-point lead here for Boston.
Boston's opened up this third quarter, 2-1 over DC. It's 12-8, 6:15 left to go. There's Kolick. Kolick, he's so good at that first initial throw and then immediately takes off making his cut. I love to watch him.
I think it's easier because he's left-handed. I haven't figured out exactly how yet.
DC moving very fast on that point as Pryle finds Kolick. They wasted no time.
That's what they needed. If they were out there for too long, these guys are going to run out of a little energy for the next point. But right now, the rest of this game is all going to be about the DCD. Oh, and that's a great quick direction change there from Kolick. That's one of the most difficult situations to keep up with him. And Roth had been doing a good job up the field of not biting on his fakes. But once you're in the end zone, there aren't really fakes so much as cuts that don't happen. Because any little space that you can get into, the throwers on both of these teams and across the league will deliver it to you.
Kolick, actually, that's his first score of the night. He's been doing a good job distributing the disc, and he's had a couple of assists. First time he's found himself in the end zone. As DC cuts it back to 3, 12-9, 5:56 left to go here in the third. We look at the Boston O-line, and now back to the DC side of things for the pull.
Should see a pretty big pull here.
And it is up and away.
Decent distance, not enough hang time for these guys to get down and pressure the first throw or two.
Jeff Smith starts things off, finds Marquette. Marquette looking for the big cut downfield. He had Graham down there, instead reels it in.
It's a defender in hot pursuit of Graham, though. Probably wise not to put that up.
Kitros Schnell, saw him earlier in the game, has a goal. Graham now double teamed.
It was a good, quick double team. The Salmi just hopped off there and got in the way. And now he's got a point block.
Well, saw me. Nice reaction.
Whoa.
Moving away from Graham.
Rico just got leveled there in the center of the stack.
Well, the foul away from the disc against Boston. They'll march it up 10 yards.
Might have a little talking to here from the ref.
Jamie Rhodes, our head of officials here in the MLU. Making the call, and DC resumes play.
Nice little break.
That was
from
nice
Wiggins.
by Wiggins, yeah. And the quick strike in for the Current. Wasting no time after getting that break. Ben Fleming from Castine. And it's 12-10 now. Current creeping back in once again.
In a lot of ways, working your way up the break side is the easiest way to break down a defense. The defenders aren't expecting it to go there that easily, and if you have the throw-in skill that we see here with 2 step-throughs, it's really simple. As you can see, the defender was on the far side. It's an easy, easy throw. So long as you develop your skills, can throw with both the inside and the outside, and pressure him on a round if he gets and commits to that inside flick break.
Nice shot of Ben Fleming. As he said earlier, Fleming was the hero for the Current in the Week 1 victory in double overtime. Able to break up the play that was intended for Christian Foster, and he covered about 30 yards out of nowhere.
And his description about it was so simple. He said, I saw the disc going up, and I knew that I needed to run fast enough to get there. That's how it works on some level. You just know that it's your turn to make the play.
You've got to get it. And he did.
That's incredible.
And DC went on to win that game right after. A couple of throws, and Delrico Johnson with the game winner. 5:04 left in this one, though. 12-10 the score. Boston on top.
That was Brian Marshall on the pull, so it looks like he's gotten back into the game. It doesn't seem to have been too difficult an injury.
That's good to see. Tyler Chan looking to air this one out. He's got McNaughton downfield, and he catches it. He's just short of the end zone. And he gets it in. Jeff Graham. So Chan will get what we were actually talking about before the game, the big hockey assist in that, because he's got the big throw as we take a look at it again.
And it sails down to this close side where none of the defenders were.
And then McNaughton gets credit with the actual assist, but really it's Chan's throw that made that one possible. Naughton, I think, thought he was closer to the end zone with the hop.
And the fact that we can start to scrape some of that data from the MLU stats program is going to be really advantageous as we go. We keep trying to talk about the game, trying to describe it both for people who have seen before and people who are new to it. You talk about a hockey assist, just about everybody knows what that is.
Exactly.
So we should be able to talk about it in a sport that requires them on most goals. Most possessions aren't 1 or 2 throw affairs, you know? So
No.
there's got to be somebody there.
It's misleading when you see a guy with so many assists, and sometimes they're just little 1 yard
Sometimes
easy
it's because
passes.
the thrower can't get into the end zone.
Right.
Sometimes it's for some other error earlier. But the other side of it is the player who gets that second assist is frequently a player who can distribute the disc to dangerous positions near the end zone.
This disc is going to be caught up in the air and float out of bounds well past the track here at Hormel Stadium.
Yeah, it looks like he was just trying for a little too much there. That disc would have needed to, with a backhand pull, have some outside into it to fade back towards the field, and he over-cranked it on the inside. So the wind caught it, drove it down into the ground on the track.
So DC will start this off from the brick mark right at the 30-yard line here in the football lines of Hormel Stadium with 4:43 left to go. Spiva working against Doherty, finds Doy, cross midfield, and there's a D by Boston. They were trying to get it to Pryl. Couldn't quite tell who got in there. Might have been Hatchett. There it is. So we get our announcement from the Whitecaps PA announcer here.
Boston is still strung out really deep on their offense here.
Simmons with a nice sky. Quickly up ahead to Wilburn, and there's some contact as Doy, see if they whistle that against Doy and Hatchett getting tangled.
There's certainly a lot of contact there. I'm not entirely sure that pass was catchable in
Might have
bounds,
been
though.
yeah, I thought it was going out of bounds. They're going to award it to Boston, though. Hatchett will pick it up against Doy, trying to center this, gets it out to Simmons. Simmons keeping it on that far side. Nope, instead centers it to Doherty.
Marks here from DC are doing a good job of anticipating which the actual throws are and which the fakes are.
And there's Wilburn up to Katz. 2 Whitecaps rookies here connecting on the assist and the goal.
We saw it there on that goal for Katz, and we saw it earlier in the game with the goal to Chan, where Boston does a fantastic job of creating space on this side of the field, where in that moment you couldn't see a defender as Katz caught the goal. He was lost somewhere in the center of the field. He turned his head, and just all that wide open space, a well-timed swing pass leads to an easy goal.
Boston pushes it back to a 4-goal lead, 14-10, 3:35 left to go. Very quietly, I feel like they've pushed it back up to 4.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a give and a take here in the third quarter. DC scored first, Boston got 2, DC got 2, and now Boston got back for 2. So each team has 3 breaks in this quarter. DC has 2 offensive goals, and Boston has 2 offensive goals. So nobody's really pulled away yet, but it extends and it shrinks back a little bit. So we've got a good back and forth here.
3:35 left to go, 14-10 here at Hormel Stadium. Boston pulling to DC. And a very, very short pull into the wind. Lands right at midfield. Kolek, don't want to give him that kind of territory to work with. Finds Doy. Tom Doy, a little low throw. Calvin Ong, nice sliding layout grab. And then puts it right in. That was a very quick score to Schaffner.
And he got it through a really tiny window there on that goal. There were 3 Boston defenders that he threw through. Ong made the cut at that point, though. As Doy caught the disc under, Ong was the second cut, pushed out deep, convinced his player that he was actually going deep, and then planted and came under for a good 20 or 30-yard gain.
That point, I should say, took all of 3 throws. Started Kolek at midfield, got it to Doy, quickly to Ong, and then Schaffner with his 4th score of the night.
That's one of the things that DC does consistently is they take the expectations of the opponents of what they expect to see from the DC offense, and they twist it about a little bit. You can see some of their play calls out of pulls, out of stoppages, take advantage of expectations. And that's one of the ways that your offense doesn't just use the talent, but puts the talent in the correct position to mostly demoralize the defense, so they think it's coming from everywhere.
Well, and it's worked. The results are there for the Current and their history, especially over the last, I guess, season and a half as we move here in week 4 of the MLU season. Montgomery Butler wasting no time looking for Marquette downfield. It should soar or sail into the end zone. I don't even know if Marquette needed to leap there, but he does anyway.
And as we were just talking about expectations on offense there, one of the things that Marquette usually does out of a side stack is that he'll set up as the first cut, so he'll come across the field looking for an undercut. So what he does there is he shoots out over into that open lane, and as his defender closes down in towards him, expecting to become the mark, what Marquette does is bust towards the end zone as fast as he can. The thrower knows that that's coming, and he puts it up to the far side of the field. We've talked about that multiple times for each team. The disc going up to the far side of the field and coming back into play is the easiest way to score on a lot of those deep shots.
Back up to 4 for Boston, 15-11. Team's really going back and forth here in this third quarter, whereas the first and second quarters were a game of runs. Really, the first quarter just a Boston run, winning that quarter 6-2. DC got the early run in the second. Boston able to collect themselves. That's Sam Richardson. First time we've seen him tonight, pulling number 81 for the Whitecaps. And now this third quarter, as I continue on saying, really just back and forth. 5-4 right now, Boston on top in the quarter. And there's a big D. I think that was Banerjee again.
Interesting little play there. It looked like Blake was attempting to throw to the ref behind him, and then the other players were not in position for the second throw.
I'm going to say the Whitecaps are happy to no longer have Banerjee on the Rumble, former New York player.
It's good to just take your opponents on some level.
Nice layout grab there. Terry Roth and the backflip as usual. Roth with his second score of the game. Boston wastes no time after the D.
That was a quick run there from Boston. It went from 4:47 left till now. They've scored 4 points. The DC's won. That's a quick hitting, aggressive run.
Right here, you see Banerjee in front of his man, and then Edmonds gets a quick pass and finds Terry Roth.
And Roth did good work to not only get down to get that disc, but catch it and get his arms down before he slid out of bounds or contacted the sideline. The thing there that Blake could have done is potentially throw back around to Kolek, because his player had poached into the lane, Banerjee, to get that block. It was a little tough, though, because the stall count was getting high and he just needed to make a decision. Sometimes you get rushed and you make the bad decision.
16-11, 2:46 left to go. Is DC's O-line having some trouble keeping up here in the first game of a doubleheader for them this weekend. Will be down in New York as the Rumble, their home opener, so they're excited. Finally get one on their own turf. Calvin Ong quickly out to Spiva. There you left Schaffner wide open there with the big gun. He finds Pryle in stride. When will they not be able to connect on that?
The thing with Schaffner is that every player who caught that disc in his position would have seen Pryle open deep, but not every player can deliver the disc 100% every time into the wind before the defense can recover.
Take a look at this one again. Quickly, and Schaffner just all the time in the world, all the space, the windup, the throw, and the catch.
And he created that space on the in cut there because he knew his defender wasn't going to bid in on the disc and had already started to slow down. So what Schaffner did is he slowed down himself and sort of jumped upfield to get the mark behind him before he caught the disc. That's what allowed him to get that free throw completely.
DC's D-line looking for a break here, trying to cut into Boston's 16-12 lead. One tick under 2:30 left to go in this one.
And
or in the third quarter, I should say.
And they're going to need to make some headway before we get to the fourth quarter here. They're going to need to close it down to something less than 4, and then they'll be in good position to make a challenge at least.
Very quick scoring points have extended this quarter out a bit.
And there's our second out-of-bounds pull in that same corner, and he did the same thing. It turned out to be an inside out, got caught by the wind, and driven down towards the track.
Boston will take it up to the brick mark. Said right at that 30-yard line here on the football field of Medford High School.
Boston ran the classic last 2 players in the stack cut to either side there to start the play. Now they're going to rely on their handlers a bit.
That's Marquette. Finds Graham. Graham looking for Taylor, I thought. Instead, it goes to Marquette, and a nice layout bid there again by Cantone. Gets the D.
Read that play very well. He was not the player on, he was not the defender covering.
He came from
the
behind,
guy. Exactly.
It looked like.
He read it from afar, kept his vision back towards the thrower.
Low throw, nice dig out there by Agan. Sends it to that far side. That's Cantone. A lot of space for him to work.
Ton of space.
Instead, just gives it to Delrico Johnson to center it. Johnson looked like he was threatening a long huck. Does go for it. Sam Kitrow-Snell there for Boston and gets the catch D right in front of the DC end zone.
The DC player was open, but Johnson didn't see the extra poach there. He was in perfect position to make that block.
Taylor threatening the big huck, looking for Tyler Chan downfield. Chan starting to come under. Marquette with the disc. Back, swings it back mid to Graham. And they'll send it over that far side. That's Chan. Had a step
like it was Fleming trying to close down on him there.
Step ahead of him. He might have even bobbled a bit, and Brower Jarris can't reel that one in. Cantone gets another D.
If DC can score this one, this could open the floodgates for them before this quarter ends.
Actually, that was Wiggins on the D. Then Cantone sends it quickly up to number 15. That's Castine. Here's Agan. Agan and ripping it in. No, he's just shy. Fleming finds Gibson.
That should have been a goal earlier. He chose to throw that inside-out backhand instead of getting a pass out further to the side, usually a flick there, and that would have been a goal, a pass earlier. But instead, we got to see the hammer over the top.
Everybody loves a hammer. Ultimate fans love hammers.
People who are used to the game, people who are new to the game, you see that disc go over the top, and it's just pleasing on some level.
Cool. There's the nice D there from Cantone. That was the first one. Then Kitross Schnell answers right back. And then we see the big play. A bid from Chan defensively was nice, but Fleming with a good read, and there's the hammer, and Gibson just has to wait for it. That's the second time Gibson has just had to wait for a hammer to come down to him tonight.
It's a sense of good offensive spacing and throwers who can deliver the disc. The thing that I noticed on that point is just that watching Fleming and Chan go at it downfield on offense and defense, going back and forth, is a pleasure. They both have speed. They're both ready to take it directly at the other player as opposed to trying to use subterfuge, use misdirection, something like that. The athleticism from the two of them, it's a good match.
That's back-to-back scores now for DC as they get that one on the break. They cut it back to 3. It's been as high as 5.
Here again, we talk about Boston wants to make sure they don't leave enough time on the clock for DC to get another chance here.
Approaching 30 seconds. Marquette falling back, finds Brower Jarris. Back to Montgomery Butler. 20 seconds now. Marquette gets it to Graham.
Spacing is a little undefined for Boston downfield.
Gonna have to make their move soon here. Up to McNaughton. Under 10 seconds now. Boston has to threaten. They get Marquette on the nice cut. He's got to look to put it now.
He'll be taking it.
He puts it up. Graham in the back. It floats up and he's got it. Wow, right over Tim Jackson. Jeff Graham in the back corner of the end zone. Nice way to close out the quarter. And I think Marquette just threw that up and hoped for the best.
Oh, I disagree.
No?
The way Marquette plays, he is the most dangerous player in situations like this where he knows he needs to get it to somebody. He's going to find the right pass. The defender had no chance there. Graham didn't even realize how open he was or that there was that much space there for him to get that goal.
So that pushes Boston back up to 17-13. And back up to 4 as we close out the third quarter here at Hormel Stadium. It's 17-13. Boston on top of the current.
Tell us one thing about yourself.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Everybody, welcome back to Hormel Stadium. It's 17-13. Boston on top of DC. They've held that pretty much the whole way here. As we talk about Gamer Grip. Stop your hands from sweating and increase your performance with Gamer Grip. The non-sticky solution allows you to make better throws and grab better catches without a hint of slippage. I think some of these guys must be using some Gamer Grip tonight. Some of these catches we've seen, Dusty.
Well, they're getting their hands all the way down there, which is actually the difficult part. Once you get there, I always found it was easy to make the catch. However, there's there's this whole other team that tries to stop you, which is where the difficulty arises.
So it's easy if you're just tossing and catching. Then when you introduce other players,
Right, it's also a good framework to think about how to play offense. Is you're just
Right.
playing catch with your friends out there. There just happen to be some other people who are playing a little monkey in the middle, who are trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You just have to avoid them. Stay away.
The best way to break it down. That's offense in a nutshell from Dusty Rhodes. Jeff Poster, Dusty Rhodes, here for our MLU Live Game of the Week. Thanks for joining us on our stream. Next week we will be back down in DC. Current hosting the Rumble. Tonight we're in Medford, just on the outskirts of Boston. Nice night here at Hormel Stadium. Whitecaps looking to get revenge against the Current. A Week 1 double overtime win, a thriller. We got 10 minutes left to go. We can see if this one lives up to the same potential that it had after that first game.
And there's precedent here to see both of these teams come back. They've both, in this game, proven that they can make 4-point runs. And last week when we were down in Philly, we saw the Spinners make a 7-1 run in the third quarter to get back ahead of the Rumble, who had made an early run in that game. So it's possible. It's just a matter of how they're going to pull it out.
Big scoring, a lot of scoring, I should say, in that third quarter. 7-6. They end up Boston winning the quarter. Boston won the first quarter 6-2. DC took the second 5-2, and Boston takes the third 7-6. So if we follow that trend, DC will outscore Boston here in the fourth. But in order to win, it's got to be by at least 5.
Oh, we could hope for double overtime again.
Again,
too.
yeah, that would be exciting. We had the late start tonight, so could be a late night here at Hormel Stadium.
But you gotta love the free frisbee.
Oh yeah. No one's complaining. Boston starts off with the disc here in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Marquette, who just had the last assist, pushes it up to Taylor on the far side. Taylor finds Chan. Chan was the big star in the Whitecaps Week 2 game against the Rumble. He had a very impressive layout grab for the first point of this game. As there's a nice looking for Taylor. He reaches up. He got tangled up with his own man on the ground, which was Chan.
Pretty sure that's not a foul there. It didn't affect the primary receiver, and it was unintentional. Could be wrong. There was a lot of complaining down there, but I'm not sure how their feet got tangled exactly.
Well, wouldn't have been involving Taylor. Taylor just had no space with Chan down on the ground. Couldn't come up with the catch. Nice grab there by Cantone. Quickly up to Wiggins. Wiggins, DC with a lot of space. 3 offensive guys back, just one defensive player for Boston. As Fleming taking his time, now sends a blade out deep, and it's out the back. I thought DC would have moved quicker there with
you'd think
all their
so.
options.
And it looked like they should have moved more quickly earlier in the point as well when they got trapped on that sideline to start. But they got the big break throw up towards the center of the field to move down. And then at the end here, it's just not as easy for him to put that disc right in the tiny space as it was for Marquette earlier to end the third quarter.
Boston will take it back. Montgomery Butler will start things off. Quickly up ahead, that's Marquette.
And you can see the mark from Castine being extra aggressive there.
Taylor looking for McNaughton, a good layout bid there from Wiggins, can't come up with it. Here's McNaughton, gets it to Taylor. Brower Jarris fakes the big huck against Delrico Johnson. Then it looked like he was ready to go right back to it. Instead swings it over to Montgomery Butler, back to Taylor. Centers the disc right around to that far side. That's McNaughton.
Has another deep cutter here. They're being more patient.
Nice grab by Chan. Had to elevate. Now he puts this one up, looking for Kitrosh Snell, and he's inbounds for the score.
Yeah, DC had their chance there. And the fact that Boston calmed down on their second possession, took all the throws they needed, moved across the field a couple times, led to this goal.
Take a look again. That was the nice grab by Chan, and then he gets the assist. College teammates right there from Tufts.
I imagine in college they get that wide open
Probably.
frequently. Out here it's a little more difficult. Cantone had made a handful of plays earlier, but every once in a while a guy will just lose you as a defender.
Sam Kitrosh Snell, the Seattle native. Actually, I think he said he had played a little bit with Seth Wiggins while he was still out in Seattle. And Sam had played with a lot of the guys who play for the Rainmakers, but finds himself in college at Tufts and still in the area playing for the Whitecaps.
And that was a pretty long point there, 2.5 minutes gone by. DC really needs to keep the pace up on offense, not take too much time. And then once they get on defense, they cannot give any more gifts back. If they have one more turnover on defense, the chances of winning this game are very slim.
Much different than that third quarter where the scoring was almost instantaneous for both sides. Ong gets it to Pryl here with 7:20 left to go in the fourth quarter. Tom Doy. That's Lloyd Blake. Blake's been relatively quiet tonight.
Just been possessing the disc, doing his work. I don't think he's had a turnover or made any errors.
Methodical.
Yeah, you don't always get the chance to make the highlight plays, as long as you're contributing.
There's Doy. Doy sends it out to Kolick. Banerjee is, I think, had fun covering Kolick tonight, and they get a nice cut in for the score. That's Schaffner once again. He's been all over the end zone.
It often seems like he's just a thrower, but he can play defense, he can create space as a cutter, and he has the will and the ability to make good on those promises that he wants to make as a player.
He's pumped up. His team's still trailing by 4, 18-14, but
it's go time now.
Never down and out are the DC Current.
They've got this deficit at 4 right now. They need to close it down. They need to close it down. There's no way to emphasize that too much.
6:47 left to go here, 18-14. Looking at the Boston O-line back out there.
The crowd out here is getting excited as former Whitecaps player Danny
Clark
Clark is throwing a disc into the stands, whipping the crowds into a frenzy.
A little bit of a hammer from Clark. The Birdman was always a big downfield cutter, and our good friend Don Boyle loves Danny Clark. 18-14, Boston on top by 4, 6:44 left to go here in the fourth. And a game of fours.
It's a tight vertical stack there from Boston. Looked like a called play to the top for Marquette.
Marquette finds Little. Over to Zid. Notable is that Jeff Graham has not come back out on the field yet for this fourth quarter and is stretching out his leg down on the sideline. It's Marquette trying to get around his mark, dumps it back to Montgomery Butler. Boston electing to stay on that far side, finds Chan.
Now they should have a chance to get it over here.
Good swing. Staying in the middle, that's a Little. Next cut is Chan.
The separation he creates.
Tyler with the hammer looking for McNaughton, a couple of more college teammates as this Tufts connection just keeps going here. And McNaughton scores, making it 19-14.
Yeah, that's looking like it's going to be the end for DC. 5-point lead with just under 6 minutes to play.
Chan with 2 assists now here in the fourth. Has had a nice night here for the Whitecaps. And it makes it a 5-goal lead. Like you said, Boston looking to shut the door on DC here tonight, defend their home turf. That's Piers' first score of the night. He's been involved a lot of other ways offensively. The second-year veteran here, the Whitecaps.
And this is where time comes into play again because DC not only has to score, but they have to score quickly.
5:51.
Interested to see what sort of play design Moldenhauer comes out with. Starting this deep in their end zone, there will probably be some sort of misdirection, and then we'll see what comes right here.
Neely, who we haven't seen much of tonight, sends that one out to Pryl. Hatchet back on him.
DC's looking off a couple open deep cuts. Schaffner was open deep early. Blake was open deep second. Those are the throws they need to be taking right now.
There's Blake right now, sending it right back to Pryl. And a good D there by Terry Roth.
It was a good D due to the awareness, but the throw from Pryal was not going to be completed.
No.
It was more to Boston than it was to his own team.
So Boston will set up, looking for another break. Simmons sends that one to Hatchett. And now Jack putting on some fancy moves and can't connect that one as Ong. There were 3 DC defenders right there for that disc, though.
Exactly.
Not maybe the best decision.
Triple coverage is tough to complete passes into. Sometimes you need to.
This time Pryal airs it out, looking for Doy downfield. Lunges for it. He's going to be just shy of the end zone. So take a step back right in front, looking for a dump. Gets it to Schaffner. Schaffner on that far side, and he can't connect with Kolick. No call.
They shrunk the field over there on themselves. They never looked at the far side of the field, never tried to get it out wide to somebody isolated down closer to the booth.
So Boston will take it right back. We're approaching 4 minutes. I think Alex Simmons very content to just walk that disc up to the front of the end zone, kill some of this clock. Now he's just going to air this one out. Didn't have anywhere to go with it. He's got one man downfield, but this one's going to hang up in the wind, allowing DC to get over. Schaffner comes over on the coverage, and Wilburn, the intended target, goes down, and he's holding the top of his head.
There's a lot of contact there, and he came down hard on the Boston player. Looks like there's no foul, but at the same time, it's not the best play to watch happen.
No. Now Wilburn, the guy down. Let's take another look. See, this disc just hung up there, and when he even checks back to see where the defenders are, yeah, no, it's clean, but then it's just the way that he lands. I think it's just he hit the, he's holding the front of his head.
Yeah, it looks like he made a lot of contact there with the ground and said
ground.
maybe his head snapped back, something along those lines.
We'll step away as they attend to Wilburn. It's 19-14, Boston on top of DC. Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. Nice to see Eric Wilburn walking off under his own power and talking with the trainer here.
Yeah, and the play there, most of the contact was after the play was made, and aside from getting their feet tangled, it probably would have been free of contact, but we got unlucky. Happy to see him come off, and we'll get restarted here. It looks like Kolick will start with the disc, and DC will start with Pryal isolated on the far sideline. The rest of the team down here in sort of a side stack.
I believe it's Misha Sidorsky checks in for the injured Eric Wilburn. Blake threatening a big huck. Puts it out to Pryal, who just had it. Looking to center it. No, Blake and Pryal just a little give and go. Now Pryal looking for the end zone shot. Laying out nicely, but just a little bit out of his reach was Kolick.
Time is just ticking away.
Now he's slow to get up. He seems overall okay, but very gingerly walking off the field.
Yeah, you can get shaken up pretty difficultly there if you're making a play that high speed, that important to you near the end of the game. It's tough.
Might have just had the wind knocked out of him a little bit. He gave a quick thumbs up. He's going to walk off on his own. We'll take another break here as Kolick makes his way off the field. There's 3:10 left to go here in the fourth. shot of some of the entertainment going on here at Hormel Stadium. We got a clown on stilts juggling.
I wonder if you can do that with discs as well.
You know, might be interesting. You should throw some to him and see what he can do next time. Play resuming here as we approach 3 minutes. Boston looking to close things out. Up 5, 19-14. That one just hung up in the air. Misha Sidorsky was the only one by it and just couldn't come up with it. So DC will get it back. Schaffner sending one deep out, looking for a prile. Can he get there? Yes.
For most throwers, that cut wasn't actually open. And Schaffner was looking for a bunch of other things before then. He was looking for the short up field. He was looking for the cross field. He was looking for the early huck. But then he saw Pryl sort of fading to the far corner, and he delivered that blade right on time with enough pace and enough location to get there without a problem.
Great put by Schaffner. 2:38 left to go. Is it too little, too late? Still time, though, for DC. Both teams with both their timeouts, too, is worth noting.
Unclear why DC would be taking a timeout here to get the midfield pull again, because they need to force turns early. They're going to need to get down on this pull. Hopefully it'll float long enough that they can disrupt the first pass or the second pass and then get an easy, quick score and put Boston on their heels and then get that doubt creeping back into the back of their minds.
And they'll be right back at work tomorrow afternoon as they travel to New York, hopefully with less traveling problems than they had tonight, coming from DC to Boston. Boston to New York, much quicker ride. That's tomorrow. Let's deal with tonight. With 2:38 left to go, it's 19-15. Boston up 4 and on offense.
They've been doing that a lot out of their stoppages, out of their pulls, is having Marquette start at the top of the stack and then just letting him go whichever way he seems to prefer.
It's Tyler Chan. Nice put there to Kittros Schnell, who's winding up. Instead, holsters it. And we'll just dump it back to Marquette.
He has a nice dynamic to their team. Just another versatile thrower and a guy who's fast enough to get open just like that when the defender knows that he's going there anyway.
This time Broward Jarris lets it ride. Finds Kittros Schnell. Chan, the trailer, is waved off. Marquette in a little give and go there from Kittros Schnell. Ends up getting it into the end zone anyway. Take a look at it again. Just a quick little strike.
Those small cuts in the end zone are impossible to defend, and Marquette's going to put it out with the outside in so the defender doesn't have a chance at it. Earlier on, we saw one of the DC players put that with an inside out, so the Boston defender had a chance to make a play. Fleming made the catch anyway, but it's just a technique thing. You have to get it away from the defender every time.
We'll take a break here as we look at Sam Kittros Schnell. Boston 20, DC 15.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Hormel Stadium. 1:48 left to go and a timeout right now. Boston on top of DC 20-15. Another look. That's the Boston D-line with both Coach Tom Matthews. I guess I can call him Coach Hirschberger.
For the weekend.
At least,
sure.
yeah, exactly. Maybe for the home games. I don't know if he'll be traveling as much this season, but Boston doing a nice job, though, with those two men running the team here tonight. And without normal head coach Sam Rosenthal.
Yeah, and we're on the verge of DC losing by 3 or more points for only the 4th time in their franchise history. And each one of those times it's been to Boston. Boston is the only team that has been able to blow them out over their existence thus far.
Boston actually has dropped the last 3 matchups before this, with the current dating back to last season. Dropped the first matchup this year in double overtime. They lost in the Eastern Conference Finals by just 1. And then the last regular season game between these two a year ago here at Hormel Stadium, DC just came in and put their foot down essentially on the East by defeating Boston and giving them their first home loss ever.
And we're on the verge of DC losing their first game in 11 straight. The streak has to
Very
come to an end
interesting.
at some
Exactly.
point. We'll see how that'll affect them over the course of the season, and we'll get our first look at that tomorrow. But before that, we've got 1:48 left here. You've got Boston taking their advantage to use the half-field pull. They're going to work on sort of their defensive look coming out of this. DC will get a chance to work on what their offense is going to look like when either Boston or New York or any of the other teams they face takes this midfield pull.
We see a little bit more of Boston's depth as they've got this healthy lead with just a little bit of time with Sam Richardson out there. We didn't see a lot of him. Tanner Johnson, a young man from Lexington.
And it looks like DC is putting out a decent number of their D-line players right now as well.
Keep their offensive legs maybe fresh for tomorrow's game against New York.
That's a good thought. I hadn't even considered that. This is where we talked about it a little bit earlier, but knowing that you do have another game tomorrow does come into play later. And you're not only just saving your offense, you're letting the guys on your defensive line touch the disc and get familiar with it.
Exactly.
And be on offense together.
So DC will start at the back of the end zone.
A lot of horizontal cuts there. It's a little confusing for the thrower, but he figured it out.
New face Tyler Monroe out there, and that's a very close. I thought Tanner Johnson had the Callahan. He was right on the edge, and he just tosses it into Ben Katz. I thought for a second he might have had it. Take a look again. That's the benefit of that midfield pull.
Just a foot away.
He thought he had it. He
was
went up
so
to
close.
celebrate.
We haven't seen that many Callahans, but one of the things we would have seen there on a Callahan is that DC would then have to pull
Exactly.
to Boston, which would be a complete reversal at this point.
That 21st goal might just be the icing on the cake with 1:32 left to go. As Ben Katz with his first score of the night. Would have been quite the debut for Tanner Johnson to come in and get a Callahan to open up his professional ultimate career.
And it looks like we're seeing the O-line back out there for DC, so it's not a sit and stay with it strategy. They still want to work on,
There's
just
always
offense.
room to improve, right?
Always. And it's your mental game as well. When you're down in the game, you still want to execute. You still want to be at your highest level of play.
DC now has to learn how to play from behind a little bit too, not only in the game itself, but coming off a loss. They haven't had to do that in, you said, 11 games, so.
And the last one was here by 5 points, 17-12.
Remember that game. It was a very rainy, ugly night.
Indeed. A lot of people taking cover.
Most of the games here in Boston were not pretty nights last season. Had a good one tonight, though. I'm sure the Whitecaps hoping for more of the same as the year goes on. Whitecaps actually with the advantage of that 6 home games after they had their one 2 weeks ago.
DC has come out of a side stack here with 5 of their players within a yard or 2 of the sideline. The isolation didn't work, so they had to flood off of that side.
Pryl sends it over to the near side. That's Schaffner. Got Simmons coming on to him. Kolick. That's Neely. Back to Kolick. Kolick trying to find some room against McDonald and can't connect. He's looking for a call. He's going to get it.
Yeah, that disc, the nose came down pretty quickly there. It seems like a foul
slap of
from
the
here.
hand, yeah. On McDonald. So 10 yards in the favor of the Current.
A lot of dancing on the dump there.
Spiva quickly over to Blake. It's funny that Coach Moldenhauer still said he's trying to determine what Nick's role might end up being. He's played primarily on the O-line here. Is a nice put there, and Schaffner in the back of the end zone kneels down really and gets that one.
Even though it's a losing effort, Schaffner has had a heck of a game tonight. He's been playing well, getting downfield, doing something he doesn't usually do, though he's certainly capable. And
But
this
we
is
still seen the big hucks from him.
did we just say that was his 6th goal here?
Yep.
Wow.
He had the only 2 in the first quarter, and that's really where DC might have lost this game. That early lead that Boston put up.
Well,
And looks like another timeout coming up here. This time for the Current. We'll step away. It's 21-16. Boston on top of DC. Welcome back, 21-16. Just 38 seconds left to go here. Boston on top as DC called timeout after their last score, so they'll pull from midfield. Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes on our MLU Live Game of the Week. Boston looking to finish this one off in the final 38 seconds. Again, we'll be back with our live stream game next weekend. We will be down in DC as they host the Rumble. First time those two, well, second time actually, those two teams will square off. They get tomorrow.
yeah, well, whoever loses will have a good chance to get right back at the other team,
Exactly.
get right back on the horse.
Which is kind of nice in these small divisions of just 4 teams on each side as MLU grows here.
I actually like the way that
Grow
they
the
get
rivalries.
Yeah, I like the way that they get to play each other multiple times. You can actually watch the defenses and offenses. You can see them change their strategies based on their opponents from week to week. And one of the things that you see New York have trouble with is the different ways that individual teams will play against them. So it won't be one look that they get; it'll be different looks that they get. And one of the best things that we can watch from this game in that is that Boston's ability to force DC out of their primary options on offense was very strong.
So, Simon Chan, he is very curious about that camera in there.
I think he was making the same face that I was making back at him at that moment. It may have been a rift there.
So DC taking the fields, ready to pull from midfield. Just another chance to work on this new aspect. Really just a new aspect to the world of Ultimate. You don't see this at any other situation, really.
Yeah. And it's the way it's changed it has been, as you can say, it's interesting. It hasn't all been figured out yet, and nobody's gotten perfect at it from either side. But it's a situation that does occur in Ultimate games generally, where you're pinned back in your own end
Right.
zone. Now it's just upping the probability that will happen during a game.
As the MLU and its creative minds always looking to tweak the rules and make this a more enjoyable experience for everybody.
Really good job fielding that pull.
Very aggressive as DC coming up defensively. Boston able to secure it away. And we'll potentially look to just run out the clock here. Naughton to Zid. There's McNaughton again. Gets Marquette, who I believe we should be talking to very shortly after this one. He is our player of the game. Fans probably looking for something out of Teddy Brouwer-Jarvis, but he's not going to do it. Boston will take this one and improve their record to 2-2. DC falls to 2-1. Final score 21-16. Whitecaps on top of DC. We'll take a break. Come back here for more of the post game here at Hormel Stadium.
Hey, Philly sports fans, come on out to Villanova Stadium on Saturday, May 30th at 6:30 p.m. to see what professional ultimate frisbee is all about as the New York Rumble take on your Philadelphia Spinners. It's Luau Night. Come celebrate the beginning of summer with giveaways, prizes, and autographs, and one lucky fan will get a chance to win $500 cash. Tickets start at just $16 now at spinnerstix.com.
You are just one of a kind, my dear. Such a good find, it's clear that you were made for me. We could be believably so carefree, for all the world to see that you were made for me.
Welcome back to Hormel Stadium again. Final score 21-16 Boston over DC. I think we're going to have a fun time seeing these two teams go head to head the rest of the way this season. We really started back in the first quarter, Boston with that 6-2 advantage after the first. DC ended up winning that second, but Boston just kept going and never looked back. DC going to run, but they'd answer right back.
Yeah, and the third quarter was a sort of a back and forth affair with each team having 2 points here, 1 point there, 2 points here. In the fourth quarter, they just extended that lead out from 4 that it was at the end of the third quarter.
Well, looks like we have Josh Marquette, as I said in the final minutes, as our player of the game. He's standing down at the sidelines, and a big congratulations to Marquette and the rest of the Whitecaps.
Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Hey, it's going swell, man. It's a little hard to hear, but I think I can, make it out.
Well, hopefully I can speak up a little bit and it won't just be the music in your ears down there celebrating the victory.
Was that Jeff I heard?
It's Dusty.
Oh, yeah, it's Dusty Rhodes here, giving you a quick interview.
Oh, nice. What's up, Dusty?
Doing pretty well. First of all, how does it feel to be back on the field with these guys?
Oh, first full game for me this year. Feels swell, man. It feels really, really great. I've been training real hard. We've been pushing every week, and it's been frustrating not to be at those first 3 full capacity for me myself, but it feels great, man. The weather was amazing. Perfect Frisbee weather. A little windy, which is what we like, and felt good to open up the legs.
You definitely added a facet to the Boston offense that we hadn't seen a little bit of creativity, a little bit of motion behind the disc and controlling the field. Tell us a little bit about that throw at the end of the third quarter to Jeff in the back of the end zone.
Man, I love that position. That's my favorite thing about this league, and I've had a few opportunities to do that where you can see the clock or it's counting down. It's about the most exciting thing in sports when you look at it, and it's really cool that we have that ability now to do that. It was an amazing feeling. It amped me up big time. That throw was exactly where I wanted to put it. I didn't even know who was back there, but I saw a body and I saw some space, and God, I'm going to watch that on replay a lot.
It looks just as good on replay as it does live.
Thanks, man. Well,
it was
the best player in the league has to make plays like that. So.
Speaking of. And finally,
this is my buddy. These are the 2 Mishas. We got Misha right here and Misha over here as well. So these are my boys, Ironside, and they decided to play Whitecaps this year. Amazing additions to the team.
Speaking of which, how does it feel to break that DC 11-game winning streak?
It feels great. The best part about that win is I think we finally gave Peter his first MLU loss. I probably shouldn't be focusing on that, but I love Peter, great player, obviously, but it is nice that we finally gave him his first L. They had bus issues, so they'll probably have some good excuses, but
Oh, I don't expect to hear them making the excuses. And now that you mentioned that Peter got his first loss, we won't have to talk about it anymore either. We can move on to the rest of it.
I'm sure no one will talk about it at all this week.
All right, thanks for your time. It was great to see you back on the field, and we hope we get to see you a little bit more. And the interview was perfect. Thanks for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys. Keep up your good work.
Thanks. We'll try to.
So big congratulations, Josh Marquette, our player of the game. Again, final score here, 21-16. Boston breaks up the 11-game win streak and pulls away, even at 2-2. They'll be back against Philly next week. DC will play New York tomorrow, but that's going to do it here for us at Hormel Stadium. So on behalf of Dusty Rhodes, I'm Jeff Poster. We'll see you next week down in DC.